I will call the April 15th meeting of the Irmo Council to order, and I will recognize Mayor Pro Tem Harvey Hoops to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and the invocation.
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Join with me in prayer. Our Heavenly Father, we come to you this evening asking your blessing upon this council and the decisions that they will make. Lord, we also ask a blessing for our armed forces, the men and women in uniform that are in foreign lands protecting our right to gather as we are gathered here this evening. Please watch over them, bring them home. We ask all of these things in your name. Amen.
Amen. Next item is reading of the minutes for April 1st. Is there a motion for the minutes approved as written?
So moved.
And second.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the minutes as written, do so with show of hands. And next item is administrative briefing. Mr. Brown, do you have anything you want to add to the administrative briefing?
Yes, sir. Reminder that Saturday, Farmers Market, again, from 9 to 12. And I talked to Mr. Schuler over at Central Midland, and it's time for us to update our comprehensive plan for Irmo. We should do it every 10 years. It's been almost 13. So we're going to start talking about scheduling a workshop and getting that underway after the budget, June or July timeframe.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Any questions of Mr. Brown?
At the farmer's market, is the seafood man coming this time? Very important. He wasn't there last time.
Really?
No.
I'll call Heather and ask her.
Thank you.
And I don't know if you wanted to, since we got that thing on the walking trail, if you wanted to mention that during the administrative briefing or anything about it, or
everybody has received a list of what the church would like to have in an easement before they want to move forward with the town. Mr. Moore, I'm sure, has had a chance to review it, and council, and I'm not sure. Whatever your comments are,
Jake,
what do we want to do?
Irrevocability of an easement, is that normal practice or what? What's the deal with that?
Here's the deal. An easement can be irrevocable for a period of years for one day. It's just like a lease, okay? Generally, if you get an easement from somebody that's a permanent easement, or an easement that you cannot revoke, you pay for that. An easement is an interest in land. So if it is a irrevocable easement, it's something you're going to buy. Now, the church, unless I miss my guess, will never, ever, ever in 100 years be willing to give to you an easement they can't revoke. For several reasons. A, it may be a time in the future when they don't like that law and they want to have control over their land. B, they want to have control over their land. They're wanting more land, not less. And C, we're not paying them anything. We're basically asking to have this easement so that we can use their parking lot. So while they want it to be revocable, meaning they can take it away whenever they want to, is if we don't keep our word to them, if we create a nuisance or a bother, they want to be able to tell us to go away. Now the practical application of this thing is basically this. And the lady that we're getting, we already had the easement from. Hers is revocable too. And she's made it perfectly clear that she's not going to give us a permanent easement. That she's not going to do that. And if we insist on it being permanent, it might as well go away. You can condemn a portion of our property if you want to. We can condemn a portion of the church's property if we want to. But at that point in time, the church can tell us, well, you may condemn this walking trail, but you're not going to use our parking.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. So we're in a posture where you're not going to be able to get an irrevocable easement for any number of reasons, one of which is they're not going to give it to you. So having a discussion about that becomes an exercise in futility. So, you know, we can go there, and you can even ask them, and I'll guarantee you what they're going to tell you. No.
That's fine, but what my idea was is that this is not a unilateral thing. It's not a situation where we're trying to use their parking lot. We're trying to make this park accessible to them for events, just like we're using their parking lot for the orchestra parking for an event. If they decide they want to do Easter Sunday in the park, they can simply walk from their property through the pathway into the park and do it, and have a community-wide Easter Sunday sunrise service. We're saying this is a bilateral exchange of usage. It's not, we're trying to use it one way and not the other. You know what I'm saying?
We have explained that to them.
Mm-hmm.
What they will tell you is their preference is that it not be there. Now, what they will tell you also is that in a spirit of cooperation, they will allow us to build this thing as long as we pay for it and take the responsibility for it. And they will allow us to use their parking in conjunction with very specialized events. But what they're also telling us is that when we're not using their parking for special events in coordination with them, they want it where it's sealed off.
Yeah, that's fine. We agree for that.
So they're not as excited about the idea of us having this, this bilateral as we are. Mm-hmm. They're basically saying to us, in a spirit of cooperation, we will allow you to build a trail, and we will, from time to time, upon request, allow you to use our parking. But we don't want this trail open and operable on a daily basis to be for events.
Now, I seem to remember at one point in time the church asked us to give them access to Carlisle Street from the back of their church.
They did.
And we agreed to do that.
We did.
So that's not the same type of spirit of cooperation. It's not. No.
They don't. Here's what they're concerned about.
I don't either, but it's not.
Here is what they're concerned. Well, first of all, it's a totally different deal.
Okay.
And they're saying thank you very much for the cooperation in the past, but at this point in time, we're willing to cooperate with you. We almost didn't get permission to do this. I mean, here's what they're concerned about. They have a preschool. And that preschool is large. And our thought was the same as yours, that you have the path, the preschool kids can march down the path, go to the park, and use it. And their response is, we already have a playground for preschool.
Okay.
We're not going to be using the park for preschool. I believe that will probably change once the path is built. But that's what I believe, and 25 cents a cup of coffee, what I believe about a cup of coffee. Mm-hmm. What they're concerned about is security for the preschool. And they're concerned about somebody being able to access that path from the park, get to the preschool, and go in and harm or snatch or do something with the child. Yeah. Our response is, you got this giant parking lot anyway.
You can do it now.
You can do it now.
Right.
But their response is, well, yes, but the park simply increases the risk of that.
Okay.
So what we're trying to do to them, what we've talked to them, we're trying to do to them, what we've talked about with them, and I think Kathy met with them, and you were there.
And the chief.
And the chief were there. What we were trying to do for them was to basically tell them that, okay, if security is your issue, then we will try and engineer something that will basically provide the security that you need. And what they did was to come back with a list of what they want. Now, it appears to me as if what they want is reasonable with some minor modifications. What they told us in their email they want is basically what they told us when we met with them that they want. And none of those wish list things or demand list things are written in stone. I think they're all subject to rational negotiation. Like the idea of a fence that runs, I think the fence they're wanting us to build is probably unnecessary. But a way to gate the thing off and cordon the thing off to where it's inaccessible, I think that from an engineering standpoint, all of that is doable. And, I've heard people toss out costs. It's going to cost X number of dollars to build or Y number. I don't know what it's going to cost to build. What I basically asked the staff to do, I asked basically Bob to do, is to set up the next meeting between us and the church and the engineer. And let's meet with our engineer, let him see what it is, and let him give us some reasonable alternatives and some more specific type fixes, and then let the engineer draw for us a plan of what this thing will look like.
What if we just have, well, we back up for a second. Get an aerial view of this property, of the park, and ask the engineer to come up with alternatives for parking on the existing 14 acres of that.
You can do whatever you want to do.
I mean,
what I was asking is, what about the easement? If you want this walking trail easement, basically you are going to have to work with the church and their demands.
If we want to use their park.
But here's the deal. The park's not the 14 acres.
There's no room.
You got 50,000 people who come to the orchestra. That little acre of land we've got in there, first of all, the grass still isn't mature enough to hold cars, but even when it is, that acre of land is not important enough people to even come close. I mean, if you put this walking trail in, and if it works, you wind up with, what, 500 parking places?
I think it's more than that.
It's something huge.
How many back here you think?
It's like 240.
Okay, Jake,
And that was one of, that, except for the orchestra, the church parking eliminates any problem you would ever have in regard to any significant event parking. I mean, you got an amphitheater that holds 500 people, 800 with standing room. Okay, you got 500 parking places. That's 1,000 people who've got room to park there, plus another 100 spaces in the park. Plus, if you had to, the 1 acre of land that we have cleared for parking, everything except the orchestra is totally answered by this thing if we're able to put it in. But I mean, this is
Jake,
y'all's
there's one
call.
thing you're not mentioning, and I have to mention it, and you know I have to mention it, and you got to understand it, and you do. I have heard estimates, and Mr. Bob, you are welcome to correct me. We could be anywhere from 125,000 to 180,000 building this walkway, the fence, the berm, the whatever, to get there. Okay, I understand that. It's got to be for disabilities, it's got to be for little old ladies in wheelchairs, I understand that. Let's say the board of trustees of the church changes a little next year, and let's say this council changes a little in a few years, and everybody says, no, we don't want to work there anymore. We've just thrown that much public money down the drain. I can't do that. It's against what I believe. You just can't do that. That's why, can't we get a 15-year
Ask them. Look, you do that. Don't ask me. I know what I can
Tell
get.
them, you know, this is public money, just like they're protecting their church land, which I don't blame them.
You are dreaming, Kathy, but go ask them.
I'm good at begging.
Go there.
I've been married 40 years. I don't have.
You can get whatever they will give you. If you get a 15-year easement, I sat in that meeting.
I sat there too, but
I watched those guys. And I
we can't
watched those
spend
guys.
that without knowing an amount of years.
Sure you can, but I mean, it's simply,
You won't be able to sleep at night.
it's simply, you know, as long, truth of the matter is, as a practical application, as long as we keep our word, they'll keep theirs. But if that is a policy call, that's not a legal opinion. You want me to tell you, do I think that I have the ability to negotiate a 10-year or 15-year or 5-year easement? The answer is no, I don't. I don't think I can get that from that church.
Can we try? I'll go with you.
Ask.
All right.
Ask. I mean, Lord, it took everything we could do, and it took them 30 minutes to vote just to give us a revocable easement. And quite frankly, if I was on the church board, here's what they're thinking. Why should we give away something that we don't really want anyway? For something we don't really want anyway?
Yeah, I think
God will get you.
I mean,
Gotta do something.
look, they're saying our primary responsibility is the safety of these children.
That's right.
And the only way we can guarantee that is to make it relevant.
But they're sitting in the middle of a community that needs them.
Well, fine. And what they're saying to you is, then you're going to have to trust us. What they're saying to you is this. You want us to trust you, then you got to trust us.
I do trust them, but sitting here representing the town, I can't. You know,
And what they're saying is fine. Then don't build it. It's okay by them.
No, it's always been the best idea, though.
It still is, but I mean, it's a policy decision you've got to make. You know, I'm here telling you that I am 99.9% convinced that you'll never get them to just give to you an easement that they can't take back. But maybe you can. Go beg them, ask them.
I am. Bob, you set that up. Thank you.
And the question becomes, who do you ask?
That board, the
That
same
board,
board.
same board, sure.
I mean, it won't be totally irrevocable. I mean, if we have somebody murdered in that parking lot, we understand that. You know, that would be...
Well, how do you write that? It's either revocable. See, the problem is, you're like Becky was, you want a 2-story house all built on one level. You want a revocable, irrevocable easement. You can't have a revocable, irrevocable easement.
If it
It's
were
got to be one or the other.
If it were my own money, it wouldn't matter, but it's not.
Well, again, anytime you spend a dollar, you're taking the risk. You took a risk the moment you spent the money to buy the park. You took a risk the moment you contracted the park. Every dollar you've spent on that park has been at-risk dollars. You've taken risks. The question isn't, should we take the risk? The question is it a risk worth taking? Is it a responsible risk to take for the overall betterment of the community? And that's a call for you, not me.
And at the same time, nobody can take the land away from us or the park away from us, so there's a limited risk when you buy the land and build it and it's yours and all that kind of stuff.
Would there
too,
be other land available, like on Church Street, or even on Eastview? You know, could we buy our own land and make our own
That's
development?
why,
Well, I would
that's why
suggest-
said, back up, take an aerial view of the land.
They'll
and
go
look,
meet
and tell the engineer to
see.
look and see.
And then after y'all meet and see, then
I think
we can
it's
put it on the
a-
agenda and discuss
I
it
think
and vote
so.
on it. Move it
Well,
forward.
that was one of the items on our workshop here was the Hiller property.
Yeah.
I had further conversations with Hillary. Hillary doesn't want to sell. They are still talking to Mom, but Mom
Come back to this, and it's
wants to
easy to do something, I'm saying, remember that?
sell. Mom, what's going to happen with the Hiller property is that property will probably not come available until Mrs. Hiller dies. When Mrs. Hiller dies, that property will be available probably for purchase.
How old is the lady? Just,
She's in Oh, that's a terrible question, but it's a great, but it's a legitimate question, okay? Here's the deal. I think she's 83 years old.
83? Oh, Lord, they're living into their 90s now.
She's in very good health and has a very strong mind, very comfortable, strong.
We're sitting there some peach
She's going to be around for a while.
Does she
One other-
year supply of peach cobbler?
One other question. Now, with your 2 cents and a quarter, where can you get a cup of coffee?
Good question.
I don't know about that.
But, you know, I just work here. I'll do what y'all tell me. And again, it never hurts to ask, but I'm telling you what I see.
Yeah, I would just they set up and go back and estimate and see,
But we appreciate it.
and cheese.
and then we can move from there.
Thank you, Jason.
Oh, yeah,
I'll email Phil and ask him. He might just say, no way, Jose. or-
yeah, we can just email
Okay.
Phil, T, whatever. Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions of Mr. Brown in the administrative briefing? And none. Receipt of communication. Anybody got a receipt?
No.
Next item, presentation by citizens for items on our agenda. This is wherever you want to speak to us about something on the agenda tonight. All we ask is you come to the podium and give us your name and address for the record. Anyone who'd like to address council on something on the agenda? Seeing none. Next item is unfinished business, approval of a contract with Armstrong Contractors in the amount of $29,453 to construct a gravel parking area in the community park. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion?
Just for clarification, this is the expanding the parking along the gravel roadway that's there now that goes back to the open field.
Correct.
On the left-hand side, okay?
And how many parking places was this one?
It's
67?
between 58 and 62, depending on how many they can squeeze in and how we can move it over towards our property line.
On that one little, okay.
That little gravel road, yes.
This will be completed before the 3rd of May, or what are we looking at?
Depends on Mother Nature.
Target.
Yes,
That's the target again?
yes.
And how many is in that park now, parking?
57.
57 altogether
52.
now, so this would be kind of doubling it.
Yep.
Any other discussion?
Is this the best price we can get?
We advertised it, and it's a couple thousand under the first estimate we got,
I think
so they were all pretty well up
looks like
there.
they ran from this price of 29 up to what, 51 was the highest?
Yep.
Yeah.
So, Rich, all in favor then of approving the contract in the amount of $29,453 to construct a gravel parking, do so with show of hands. Next item is new business. First reading of ordinance 1405 to annex 4 parcels of land located in Richland County on the north side of Victory Road, which is lot 17, 19, 21, and 22. Is there a motion for a first reading?
So moved.
In a second.
Second.
Discussion.
The owners have expressed interest. They want to come into the town, and I think it's time.
Under what zoning?
I think it was general commercial for all 4, and 2 of them are currently kind of already built on, or 3 of them? 2 of them?
2 were built on. One's a contractor out there, one's a boat dealer, and the other 2 undeveloped.
Does that back up to that apartment complex?
Backs up
It's
to
close.
an apartment and a
One
house.
corner of it down there is probably back to the apartment complex somewhere. There's not,
Adderley or whatever it is, a subdivision.
yeah, there's a subdivision back there, and the apartment complex here, and then SC&G is on the corner. And there's nothing kind of on one of the corners, particularly it's too low for them to build on. It's just kind of low in that area. It still belongs to, I think, the apartment or SC&G, but they can't build on it, so to speak.
So we need to have, was it neighborhood commercial next to the apartment complex? As opposed to general commercial?
Well, I think based on that, because you already got the two that have already got commercial businesses on it are the
Yeah.
ones that back up to the apartments. And
We're talking about that parcel that backs up to the apartment complex. Should be
They're
neighborhood
already general commercial.
They already got their, yeah, I think that thing is,
They're all general commercial, right?
Well, the two of them are, the
Okay.
two businesses.
these are two.
There's nothing on the other two
Something
pieces.
on- This is a apartment here or something, I think.
Oh, okay.
Any other discussion?
What, I mean, what is this gonna do for us as far as make sense to the town of Irmo? I don't understand why you should bring this in.
Development, most of our revenue is based on business licenses and commercial business.
And we're already, say, the other side of the street already over there. So you, I won't say you're riding down the road patrolling one side, and you kind of look the other direction and, I won't say patrol the other side, but you're basically already kind of patrolling to some degree already. You're not responding, but
There's one thing, whatever y'all want to do is fine, but I was on council with a group who made a promise to some people in Valentine that we would not annex across the street from Valentine Elementary. So I can't vote for it, but if y'all want to vote for it, I will still speak to you.
if I vote for it, that means you will speak to me.
If I were really mad about this, I would not, but I just want you to know.
Downtown Elementary's across the street from here?
It's down the road a little
Right,
bit.
yeah.
Just down the road a little bit. But Valentine Elementary is already next to our border, because on that side of the street, our town limit's in,
But
kind
see-
of right there where it is.
Most of the people we made that promise to lived in Milford Park. They approached us for annexation just last year. So I don't know how valid it is. Milford Park, yeah.
They got process for annexation?
When those Section 8 apartments were going in, yeah.
I thought they were going to be.
They were working on it until they found out, yeah. So I made a promise, and I've only made 2 in 10 years, so I'm going to...
Two promises?
I promised it. I only made 2 promises, I've honored both.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Explain, we were persuading on your side, you know, I mean,
Because
because
there are people in Valentine that have the notion they can incorporate one day. Now, I don't think they have any idea of the price, the emotional cost, the organizational cost, the whole thing.
They had a referendum that was shot
They have a
down,
referendum,
3-1.
but there's still a group that meets, the civic association or whatever, and they still think they can do something.
And they may,
And
but
they may, I don't know.
these are 4 property owners too, that have
I know.
also made the choice to say, hey,
I understand.
we'd rather come into y'all's town or
Anyway,
whatever, and I think that is,
I think we've given them enough time, and especially after Milford Park made overtures to come in.
so we have 3 meetings on this, right?
yeah. And you may have to have a public hearing at the
Public
second one or the third
All
one.
right, I'll go along
Before
with
the
you.
third reading. You got to give it
Maybe it'll convince me
15
otherwise.
days, 30 days for the public hearing, so we have to
Always keep
extend
my
the third
promises.
reading until the second.
I ain't got a dog in this week,
For the
so.
first meeting.
Well, I've been married.
So any more discussion? You ready? All in favor then of first reading of ordinance 1405 to annex the 4 parcels, do so with show of hands. And all opposed? Next item is first reading of ordinance 1406 to amend the Irmo business license ordinance, Chapter 10, Section 1034, license tax to amend the in-town business, is that right? To amend in-town business due date, the 15th day of April, which is
What
right,
it is now, yes.
and to add out-of-town businesses due the first day of January.
Correct.
Which that'd be the change. We're doing
That
that.
would be a change.
Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
And second?
Second.
And any discussion?
Okay, what's up with that?
Explain.
I'm sorry, yeah, the ordinance, when it was written a long time ago, was not very detailed. In fact, it was very, well, it just wasn't properly written. It allowed any business to wait until April 15th
Right.
to get a business license.
Okay.
Well, but it doesn't differentiate in there which one's a new business and which one's an existing business already in town. We give that break to existing businesses in town from the previous year. But because of the way it's written, we got new businesses coming into town and opening up in February and says, well, we don't have to have your business license in until April 15th. Well, yes, they should have it in immediately, but because of the way the law is written, they get to wait till April 15th, and we can't write them a citation. This is going to clean that. Oh yeah,
Well, let me-
this is going to fix that.
This says add out-of-town businesses.
Right.
So is this new businesses or out-of-town?
No.
You didn't say, I'm sorry.
I'm talking about a new out-of-town business that comes in like a lawn care.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
They come into town to do some work and they show up in February,
Right.
and we require a business license.
Right.
But because of the way it's written on our application and in the ordinance, they can wait until April 15th because the police officers don't have the grounds to write a ticket because it says on or before April 15th.
So that's the out-of-town contractor type
That's for
business.
renewal, not for new business.
It doesn't say that in the ordinance. That's why we're doing this
That's why
ordinance.
we're doing this, it doesn't say that.
But this doesn't say for renewal, it says out-of-town businesses.
It is a renewal because in-town businesses,
New or renewal, yeah, it's either one.
right, in-town businesses,
What is
a brand new in-town business comes in today and they have to get a license. They can't wait till April 15th.
Well, right now, I'm guessing maybe, if it says license tax A, right now it probably says everybody has to get one by April 15th.
April 15th.
So this would amend it to say that you still got to April 15th if you're an existing business. But if you're an out-of-town business.
If you're a new
you have to
business.
If you're new, yeah.
Well, not just new, if it's somebody that had one last year, they cut grass or they paint houses,
Right.
they still got to get theirs by January 1st.
Right.
If they're an out-of-town contractor.
Coming into town to do
To
business.
do business. That's correct.
Gotcha.
That's where the disconnect is.
And what has happened in the past, before we had a one-job-only business license.
Right.
That is no longer because when we went to the NAICS codes.
Okay.
So if someone coming in now that was, say, a lawn care or contractor, if they came in town in January as doing business in the town, they left, they didn't come in and
We
get
didn't kind of way of
license.
going back and making them get a
And so
license.
we had no way to stop them and say, look, you have to come, which they've done, is said, look, you got to come in and get your well, on your application, it says I have until April 15th
Right.
to come in and get the license.
For renewal, not for your initial license.
But in essence, if they're coming in to town to do work, if they're not an in-town business, it basically is kind of a renewal. Our license, the application itself, when you fill it out,
It's only for 1 year. It expires December,
correct,
whatever, 31st.
it expires December 31st.
No, I thought it expires April 15th.
No, it
You
expires,
have until, as an in-town business, this is where we're specifying, you have until, as an in-town business, to get your license in by April 15th before we assess a penalty.
Right.
So in essence,
So, okay, so
today
you're
was-
are you saying that every business between January 1st and today has been operating basically illegally
with an expired business license.
with an
yes.
expired business license?
If they're not an
Correct, but
in-town
as an in-town
business.
business, we're letting them have until April 15th to get it in.
Without paying
It's a
the bill.
grace period.
A grace period, correct?
Now, don't get me wrong, Barry, most of them that come in, an officer goes out there and says, you need a business license, most people come in and get a business license.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, but see, I think the word renewal needs to be in here somewhere, and it's not in here.
Yeah, but
That's
it's not
my
really,
only malfunction with this. It has to-
it could be for a renewal, it could be just somebody that says, hey, I'm gonna go in there and fix this guy's porch.
Right.
Correct.
And he comes in February, and if he's knowledgeable and sharp, he could say, well, I don't need one right now, and then he skips and goes away and never
You
gets it.
never see them again.
Because he got to April 15th.
And that was what happened. Our code enforcement officer went out and gave someone a citation for not having a business license. They came in, said they got the license, however, They came in and said, look, we have till April the 15th. Your application says it's due April the 15th. And this was an out-of-town business that came in to do work in the town.
That's been working in town for 20 years.
Any other discussion?
I'm not comfortable with that, but, okay.
All in favor then of changing it, as stated here, do so with show of hands. And all opposed? And maybe, we gotta have another reading on that too. Maybe, just for the next time, put the old one in, so we can look at the old one and just, maybe that'll help us understand a little bit better too. You know, just, you know what I mean? Put the existing one in and then.
Because I'm looking at myself as an out-of-town business, and I'm coming to town to work, and all of a sudden I gotta pay the license twice. I gotta pay it in January, and I gotta pay it again on April 15th.
No, January, you're not due next
It's
January.
good for the whole year.
Due for the year. I mean, technically, every business
Everybody
license
should buy it
is due
January
January
1st.
1st.
Right.
But if you're an in-town business, they give us till the 15th to pay without a penalty. I mean, we really have to pay it the 1st. We
It's a
just
G-nice grace period.
wait until the last day to pay it. Of course, I paid mine a week early, I think. I'm good.
Thank you.
Next item, presentation by citizens. This is where anyone who would like to address town council on anything, whether it's on the agenda or not, may do so. All we ask is you give us your name and address for the record. Anyone who would like to address the council? Seeing none. Next item is executive session. I guess there's none. Nobody need? Next item would be adjournment. Is there a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
And a second. Did I hear a second?
Second.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Speak up.
All in favor of adjournment? Do so, show hands, aye, whatever. We are adjourned.